walked right to the, I mean, oh. Did she find herself?
What?
Did she find herself?
Yeah.
But that was quite a day today. We got the puppy coming. We got the puppy coming and Marge is coming to talk.
Oh, okay.
Both of them. That would be cool. So if you want to see the puppy that's not the puppy 21st of November. That's what Joel was about. Just kind of hug the puppy. So we know what person's coming.
Board of Education meeting is now called to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Secretary Halls.
All members are present with the exception of Mrs. Berman and Mr. Pickett.
Approval of the agenda. There are no changes to the agenda. The agenda will stand as printed.
Excuse me.
Yes.
May I ask why 4120 was removed from the agenda?
Yes, that's with regard to the information item that was presented at the last board meeting. That would be Board Policy 4120. It was presented as an information item at the last board meeting. There was a lot of discussion about it, very thorough discussion. And at the end of that, we came to some agreements on some of the issues with regard to it. The board member that actually asked that this policy be placed on the agenda originally is not here this evening. So that in the interest of being transparent into the public, it was, I felt that it was best to hold off on discussing this item. I would think that all board members should be present. This is a very, a topic that we have discussed very thoroughly, and it's something that I think that all board members probably have something to say about it. So with that board member who had asked that this be placed on the agenda not being here, I did speak with our board president, who is not here this evening as well, and I'm standing in as acting board president. We decided it would be best to take this off the agenda for tonight and place it back on the agenda as a future item so that all board members could discuss it while they're physically here.
I just have a concern. I was not able to be at the last board meeting, and I care deeply about this topic, and it wasn't removed from the agenda last meeting, and I was trying to understand. We are one board, and it seems to me that we ought not to be moving agenda items just so that we have a certain board member present, because it was just removed today, and I don't think that's the way that the board should behave.
Well, I would state that the last time that it was brought on the agenda, it was just an information item. So the process, we wanted to make sure that we followed it very thoroughly. and that the item is placed as an information item, then it becomes a action item. So in the interest of being transparent and making sure that all board members would have an opportunity to actually comment on this and have an opportunity to say something about it, and a specific board member that is asked to have this placed on the agenda as a professional courtesy, we felt, myself and the board president, that it would be best to wait until that individual is here present. Now that person had offered to be here by way of phone, as well as Mr. Piggott be here available by way of phone, but I didn't think that that was appropriate. I felt that in the interest of all board members having an opportunity to fully discuss this item, that it would be best that they were physically here. It's fair to this board, and I believe it is fair to the public. I dispute the fact that I think this is exactly how the board should operate because it's transparent. It was an information item. There was discussion at the last board meeting that the superintendent did not have the directive from the previous board to follow a policy that we currently have in our bylaws that should be followed. So when we had the discussion, there was some information that the superintendent did not necessarily feel that as comfortable with, and he wanted to make sure that we had the language correct. Since then, the superintendent, Dr. Wunderlich, has looked and brought forth some language that he feels comfortable with. He has notified the board president of that, and myself. I think that the board has to have a debate about this issue, and in order for it to be transparent and for it to be fair, because it is a fairly controversial issue, it is incumbent that we do have that person here who is asked to have this placed on the agenda, and all board members really here present so that we can discuss it thoroughly. Now, having it being done on the phone could have been done that way, but I don't feel it would have been adequate because they probably would have been on that phone and all they would have said is which way they vote. And I think that it's important for everybody here to know which way we're going to vote and for there to be a thorough explanation about that, especially about an issue that there has been a lot of debate on over the past, well, at least the past year amongst this board.
Is this procedure?
All right, hold on. Ms. Halls?
So just to be clear, moving forward, anytime we have a controversial issue and one of us can't be here, we're going to continuously take it off the docket?
No, I would say this. Let's say it's a professional courtesy, and the way I look at it is a professional courtesy. If you're somebody who wants to place something on the agenda, and Mr. Piggott has said that any item that a board member wants on that agenda, he'll talk with you and he'll put it on the agenda. If you've asked to have something put on the agenda, an example would be you have an issue that you want to come before this board. I would say as a professional courtesy, if you couldn't be there at that board meeting, then we would wait until you were at that board meeting because you have asked to have this placed on the agenda. And in this case, it was Ms. Vargon who was asked to have this placed on the agenda. She's not here, so as a professional courtesy, we have said that we will allow her so she can defend what she's bringing before the board. So in the future, I would say, and this is just me speaking, that if any board member on this board puts forth a request of an item to place on the agenda, and then they can't be here for that meeting as a professional courtesy, I would say, yeah, we should wait until that board member's here. Because they're the ones that have to defend why they want this placed on the agenda and why they think it's something that we should move forward on.
May I speak?
Yes.
You've mentioned professional courtesy many, many times throughout your explanation, and what I'm saying is this is the work of the board, this is the work of the school district, and it is not to be extended special preferential treatment for any issue. Who's to say which issue is more important to which board member at any given point in time? An agenda is transparent to the public so that we can speak about the issues before us as a board. And if a board member is not here, that should not force an issue to be removed from the agenda because you want to give them professional courtesy. So I'll leave it at that.
I would say that there have been other instances in the past with our board where professional courtesy has been extended. So, what I'm telling you right now is the premise of why this has been taken off the agenda is so that we are open and transparent. So the person that is asked to have this placed on the agenda is here to defend why they put that on this agenda. Every person on this board knows that this has been a controversial issue. So if you are asking to have something put on the agenda, you need to be here, or you should be here to explain why you want that on and take ownership in it. Ms. Bargon is not here. So, what we have done is professional courtesy, and we should extend this to any board member that wants something on the agenda, that if you have asked to have something placed on and you're not going to be here, let's wait until you're actually here so that we can have this discussion. And I would expect when she is here that she will be leading the discussion as to why she wants this placed on the agenda. Trustee Patricia?
And again, I think what you're getting into is very dangerous territory. To a professional courtesy doesn't apply here because we're a board per se. If this were on the board, we'd either support or deny whether I was the one to bring it up or to. I would like to have the opportunity to either oppose it or defend it. I don't have to be the one that shares it. Just because it's something that was brought up doesn't mean that I oppose it or approve it. But because I didn't bring it up doesn't make it less important. It's just worth voting, either yay or nay. This is something that was brought up as a informational item that was placed on the board to vote on. Whether I was here or not here, that was our agenda. To be putting things on and removing things is what makes it non-transparent to the public because our agenda changes. That's why I have always opposed adding things to the agenda at the last minute. That's not pretty, this is our board. This is the way we should do. I feel we should do that. I don't believe it is the president or vice president's prerogative to either add or remove things like that. If this was an agenda item, you decided that you didn't think it should be here because the person in chairing or charging forth on this issue isn't able to make it. We should be at all meetings. If I can't make it to a meeting, that's my fault, something else has come up, but I have to take ownership in not being able to be there at that meeting to either support or oppose something that I believe in. So again, the professional courtesy, if you want to put it on the bill, but a professional courtesy, I don't believe is a correct example of using as an excuse.
Thank you. Thank you. And I respect that comment. But what I would say is that the alternative would have been that that board member, Ms. Bargon, would have been available by way of phone, which she was planning on doing. Dr. Piggott would have been available by way of phone. But it was not fair. And I think at the end of the day, what we're looking at is transparency. That's the whole point of having an agenda, is so that we are open and transparent. There have been numerous examples in the past where this board, over the years, has added things at the last minute. I can think of just a few weeks ago when we added the resolution against the request for a liquor license, the day of the meeting. And emergencies. But in this instance, I think that this situation calls for, and this was done as something so that the board could collectively have a thorough discussion about it. And I think that's one of the things that we have to have. We can't talk about these items because of the Open Meetings Act amongst each other more than three. So we don't know what's going to happen coming in. And when we have to have these discussions, people often say, well, as a board, you should be making that decision and then moving forward. Well, that's not the case because we have to, Open Meetings Acts, make it so that we have to have these discussions in front of this body of individuals. So that's why I want to make sure that everybody is present specifically, and if you have asked to have an item placed on the agenda, that courtesy should be afforded to that individual. We had it as an information item at the last board meeting. We have had numerous instances that I can bring up, but I won't, where we have added things to the agenda without them being an information item. In instances where it wasn't necessarily emergency. So I think in this instance, this is a process that we're following, and I want to make sure that we do follow it. That it is an information item, and then it's an action item. So this will come back up for an action item in the future. It's going to be transparent. There's an agenda here. The whole point of having an agenda is so that we're transparent and the information is out there. This hurts the public in no way because the public is aware that this is an item that's going to come before this board at some point. If anything, they have more of a heads up and knowing to research and to gather the information on it. But in the interest of this board making a collective decision as a board, so we thoroughly discuss this issue, the person that has requested this be placed on the agenda not being here, but saying that they would actually be here by way of phone, well, that I don't think is very fair to the public, because then that individual is going to be very limited in the amount of information they're going to be able to get. You know, if we have them by way of phone, they should be here physically to answer to the public, and every single board member who's going to vote on that will have an opportunity to put forth questions and have discussion with that individual.
So if I can't be at the next meeting,
Solid.
and I request to have it removed, are we gonna have it removed until I can be here?
No, because if we'll say this, Ms. Halls, if you had asked me for an item, and this is not my choice, this is the board president, I'm the vice president speaking, but I did speak with the board president. If you had asked me to, as board president, to place an item on the agenda, and it came on the agenda, and then you told me at the last minute you're not gonna be there, I would say as a professional courtesy, that I would take it off until you're ready to bring this back before the board so we can thoroughly discuss it.
Well, I think we're obviously not gonna agree, so I would suggest moving forward.
I do think it's dangerous territory though for this board to be entering into. I've never in 10 years seen an item come to us as an information item with thorough discussion and then have it on the agenda to take action and have it removed for professional courtesy.
I can think of an example, the youth assistance funding question that was brought up before as an information item. Mr. Himmelspach went back and forth on that, taking it on the agenda and taking it off the agenda. So there have been instances of that. We can go back.
Because of personal preference, I mean, a personal courtesy?
It was, I would tell you this, I would tell you this, that Mr. Himmelspach, as a professional courtesy, I had asked for that item to be placed on the agenda. As a professional courtesy, he reached out to me and asked me if I was going to be at that board meeting. And if my memory serves correctly, I had to miss that board meeting because of something that happened and it was taken off the agenda. So that has happened in the past. For you to say that has never happened in the 10 years of Nassau, I've seen it in the 5 years that I've been on this board.
That is not what happened. That was not a professional courtesy because you
It wasn't on the agenda.
It wasn't on the agenda. And it wasn't told that.
Well, you're not aware of the conversation between myself and the former board president,
I'm
so.
just telling you the agenda, but we're obviously not going to agree.
We're
so
gonna
I'm
have to
suggesting we
agree
move on.
to disagree. Thank you.
Disagree.
Moving on, information items, anti-bullying task force, Dr. Wunderlich.
Thank you. Last week, we had a meeting with the anti-bullying task force at the Prairie Building. We had a couple of main topics. The first one was to take a look at the website, the web page on our website, and review that, make sure that the information that we had asked for at the previous meeting was there. So we took a look at that, came up with a couple of other things that we would like to see on there, but thought that the page was ready enough to move to a more prominent spot. So it is now found under latest news on the front page of our website. So anybody that wants to explore that can take a look. And there's a whole lot of attachments to it, so you can hit a lot of different hyperlinks and go to different places. And there's quite a bit of information involved there. And that will be an ever-growing, ever-changing web page as we meet as the group and find other things that we'd like to add, other information and other things that we'll be working on. So it is now to a much more prominent spot on the front page. Then Lisa talked at the meeting about, at the time was the upcoming parent engagement night now in the past, and talked about the things that we were going to be able to have parents be involved in, including training on restorative practices, social emotional learning. There was also suicide prevention offered there, as well as many other things in curricular areas. And so many of those things you heard about when Lisa did her presentation at the previous board meeting. Then the other big topic we talked about was to publicize all of those things that we're working on as a school district. There are so many things going on and great things happening in each building, but it doesn't necessarily mean the public knows about all of those. John Paul and I have gone to a presentation at Oakland Schools about a program called Hero in the Hallway, and so we talked about that quite a bit and being able to adapt that. And so I had asked Lisa if she would say a few words. We're going to have a group of students working on that, and so Lisa, why don't you tell us what's happening there?
one of the things we discussed was a program very similar to Hero in the Hallway, using that as a framework, but wanting to brand it as kind of a Waterford type thing, something that would be catchy for our students and our community and our staff. And so we discussed having a group of students come together and share ideas for a slogan and a catchy phrase that would kind of encompass our whole SEL program. That we could then have a contest for posters and t-shirts and really do a massive roll-up come fall that everyone would be involved in, and we could launch a PR campaign at that time, which means if you back up the timeline, we need to get moving now. So we have already organized a trip for students. We will be meeting with them on March 18th at the Kettering LGI. We're going to have representatives from every building. They're going to come together and work in groups to come up with a few different catchy phrases that we will then send to the committee, and they can make a final determination of what that will be. And then from there, we'll start our campaign for a contest for student artwork and graphic design for t-shirts and posters to hopefully share not within just our district, but also with our business partnerships and in the community, so that the entire community, when they see that slogan and when they see those posters and the t-shirts, they know exactly what that is, and would even help participate and join in by displaying that or wearing t-shirts and being part of our SEL program in the Waterford community beyond the Waterford School District. Questions?
Great. Super positive.
Ms. Sutherland?
I just want to commend the outstanding work of the entire collaboration of individuals that worked on this anti-bullying task force and continue to work on it, and the work that has been done thus far. I know that there's been a great deal of emotional energy around the issue, but I think the progress has been stupendous, and just wanted to thank you so much for all that you and the entire group have done. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to say a special thank you, and Megan, I never pronounce his name right, Mr. Angona, is providing pizza and breadstick lunch for the students that day. So in transportation.
You would from Little Caesars, we should probably mention that, right?
Yes.
Yes, Little Caesars.
And transportation is generously offered to pick up the cost of transporting the students to Kettering.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's a team effort.
I'll just make a mention as well, with the whole Hero in the Hallway idea, it's, it really is something that has been done in Chippewa Valley, and they've been really open with sharing the template for what they've done. And at our bully task force, it was stated that we just are going to basically put a Waterford twist to it, but we're going to use a lot of the same bones for it. But there's this whole process where you can nominate a hero, and then at the end of the week, the heroes' names are put into a showcase. There's a whole process for nominating a hero. There's a box that's decorated, and we're going to put our own Waterford spin on it, and they'll put the nominating name in the box. But it really sets an atmosphere, and what they saw in Chippewa Valley, Keith and I saw when we went to the Defeat the Label conference last fall, was that the community gets involved. Everybody's wearing these cool superhero shirts, and it's a hero in the hallway. It looks like Superman with a hero on it. We're going to have something a little different for Waterford. So it's not just the school, it's the whole entire community that gets involved in it. And one of the things that they found with Hero in the Hallway was one of the biggest things is the bystander. The person who's being bullied and then the bully, but the bystander is a very important part of the equation. And with those shirts, what it does is it makes us all bystanders who are safe people, who kids can look to and say, that's somebody who's going to stop bullying, that's somebody who's going to step up. And it creates this environment where kids actually feel safe. And feeling safe is what we know from the survey that we got from Oakland schools was a big issue not only in Waterford, but in a lot of school districts, that kids want to feel safe. And if they feel safe, then they feel in a very good environment that they're going to be able to learn. And so the whole Hero in the Hallway thing, using the bones of it, but putting the Waterford spin on it is, I think, you know, the task force was pretty strong in saying that this is something we really want to bring to Waterford, but make our own spin on it. So the work that we're going to do on it, and then having the kids involved is just fantastic. You know, giving them that buy-in, which is going to be a big piece of it. So, you know, thank you, Ms. McPhee, for the task force, Dr. Wunderlich. I think this is going to be a really good thing. We're doing great work, and part of the criticism that people had was they didn't know what it was we were doing, but we really tackled that at that last meeting and talked about the website and what we're going to do to really, you know, show off, you know, and give recognition to all the stuff that we are doing right now. So, next item on the agenda, Waterford MEA, Ms. Gray.
Torres, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight, and I want to thank James and Kelly for her help with this. It's just something really very near and dear to my heart. So, good evening, and welcome to What's Your Dash? Keith Wunderlich. We don't stop believing in our own very own rock star from my favorite band. To coffee time with Keith and taking time to listening to the stakeholders, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things from parents because I'm in the classroom, so unfortunately I couldn't have coffee with you. To when we asked you, and I remember specifically the day you came to Riverside when you were first starting, and you said, Keith, we really need junior kindergarten. Our poor little guys. The stress of kindergarten, and by that fall, we had junior kindergarten up and running. We were losing kids to Clarkston for the young fives, and you brought a really wonderful program back to the district. From Waterford Reads to Sweet Reads to Wilbur the Wombat. First Fridays, which if you go to any building, employees in the district will tell you it's the first time that a superintendent, and believe me, I just started year 34 in the district, that we've had a superintendent actually honor the employees in the district. That's right. Keith, please don't forget about us. Please don't forget about us. May is Teacher Appreciation Month, so we want to make sure before you leave, you get a chance to celebrate us. So we thought we would. That's important. Come on. We love Santa Claus. I got the honor of being involved in Shop with the Hero with the Waterford Coalition, and we have our very own Santa Claus who the kids absolutely adore. In fact, one of the little girls who made her own Christmas ornament and then took it up and gave it to Santa. I think most of the adults were in tears as they watched the little girl give her Christmas ornament to Santa. So I hope you're coming back to help us with that. To the first time in 10 school year. That's like awesome. When you get those tweets from Keith in the morning. No school. I think the teachers are excited as the kids. To the academic achievement certificate. That we've had many kids receive that certificate. To the Waterford STEM program, which in my day that used to be the auto shop. And now it's a STEM. So. Thank you for the difference you have made in Waterford. As you are on the hunt for burners, and we are on the hunt for a new superintendent, please remember your legacy will continue as our students grow and our employees see financial growth. Could you join me down here? I have a small gift for you. Since we are WSD, I thought, how perfect, but the W could stand for he's now officially president. I happen to know the S. I happen to know one of his favorite shopping spots happens to be on the hunt. And so Ron wants to help us.
It's an antique shop. If it's any surprise to anybody, the one with the big Werner sign on it. I'll take the, yeah, I know the
So Ron wants to help Hunt and Downey, so you can't leave Waterford.
My last board meeting, is it?
No, kind of like we count down, you know, from Hundred's Day, who we count down, you have 6 left after tonight.
Okay, well, I did not prepare a speech, so just thank you so much. I appreciate all the support. And Mary, thank you for the trip down, the memory there. That's very nice. But none of those things were done just by me. They were done by lots of people in the school district and the entire community to make things successful. And a lot of the ideas and sweet reads that was Val. So, you know, I'm glad I get credit for it, but that was Val. She's the one, all I had to do was say, okay, that's good, it happened. So, okay, so as long as you say okay. But thank you so much, I appreciate that very much, and yes, I'm still around here for a while. We've got a lot to do in that while that I'm around too, so we'll keep working on it. It's a little bit of heavy lifting we've got to do between now and then, so we'll be doing that too. But thank you all very much.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Save the book up once.
Ms. Sutherland?
I was just going to say, it feels like the beginning of a long goodbye. So we're glad we still have you for a few months, and we will look forward to, I think, lots of celebrations about the stupendous work that you've done in our district, and to leave Waterford in a better place and to keep us moving forward on this trajectory. So we thank you and look forward to more celebrations to come.
We clearly have a great groupie bunch.
Y'all need t-shirts.
Thank
I'd just like to say, as I stated before, Waterford Reads is a fantastic program. It was one of the first books, the Wilbur the Wombat book, that my daughter would be entering kindergarten in the fall, had an opportunity to read. Opening day, I remember the first time you did that, you gave us all a DVD, and I watched it all the way through, and I just thought it was fantastic. There was really a piece in it that moved me quite a bit, and I actually had quite a few people look at that. I said, if you're going to watch anything, watch this piece. And it was in that first opening day, there was a story in there about some juvenile offender kids that came from a school that was for at-risk youth, and they played on a football team. And they had an opportunity to play another team, a normal school team, and nobody ever came to their games because these are at-risk youth and they don't always necessarily look at favorably. And you had a whole piece in there about how these young offenders, they went to the meeting, or went to the game, and something quite interesting and inspiring happened that nobody expected. That the opposing side noticed that there was nobody there for those kids, and they stood up and clapped for them and encouraged them. And it was a very moving piece, and I would encourage anybody to get a hold of that, opening day from 4 years ago now. And I remember I showed it to my wife, I showed it to a number of people, and it was just a very moving thing, and I'm just happy that you brought stuff like that to this district. I really think that, you're going to be known, your legacy will be Waterford Reads, at least in my book. It really encouraged me and my wife and my daughter to really get into the reading, academic achievement, and STEM program. So this is, we've got a lot of time left still, but this is the first of the many goodbyes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will now take public comment on any action items. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on an action item, an item that we'll be voting on this evening? There's nobody. So we will next move on to approval of the minutes. Secretary Halls.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the February 21st, 2019 regular meeting and the February 26th, 2019 special meeting. I so move.
Support.
A motion has been moved and supported. Are there any comments or questions? All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it. New business. Superintendent's recommendation, Secretary Halls.
Superintendent's recommendations 75, 18, 19, retirements, resignations, leave of absence, expirations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the resignations and retirements as presented. I so move.
Support.
The motion has been moved and supported. Are there any comments or questions? Ms. Sutherland?
This is a tough list to have in front of us. I'm both happy and sad. I'm thrilled for the names on the list and sad for what it means to the Waterford School District to be losing the kind of expertise that's represented in this extraordinary list of individuals. My son's 5th grade teacher is on here. My daughter's 3rd grade teacher is on here. My younger daughter's drama teacher is on here. My youngest son's choir teacher is on here. And my youngest daughter's science teacher is on here. So it's quite a list. And but at the same time, we're thrilled and excited and so happy for those that are retiring to open up this next chapter of their life and to be able to step out of the classroom and into a whole new world where they're not accountable all day long to a huge classroom of children. So we're really excited, but it's quite a list.
Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Those in favor, the ayes have it. Moving on to the next item, consideration of certain purchases. Treasurer Sutherland.
Superintendent's recommendation 76-1819, contract award bid pack 19-03. It is recommended that the Board of Education award contracts for bid pack 19-03. Grayson Elementary remodel and addition, Mott and Kettering locker room renovations, Haviland door replacement, Beaumont water main fire hydrant addition, Schoolcraft drainage improvements, and this recommendation is per the summary presented with a total award of $10,124,184. The funding source is the 2016 Series 2, and I so move.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments?
Not everyone on the list was the lowest price. The majority of them are, the other ones are a little bit different. The electrical ones tend to be even more so, is it?
Yeah, when evaluating the bids and so forth, the roofing bid didn't meet the spec, so that one had to be taken out. The mechanical bid didn't have the full package. They didn't bid on all the pieces. We have to bid on everything. And there's a couple there. And the electrical piece, which you're referring to, is an allowance. We require to have allowances out there, so that if we have any issues in the field, that allowance is there. And they didn't bid on that, so then it's good.
Then again, these are all the people that turned in bids. You've got all here, so I mean, we could have just eliminated the other two that were lower ones and just use that highest one or the second one or whatever. They put them all on here so we know what's going on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Transparency.
Ms. Sutherland.
I know that for those of you in attendance and those of you in the listening audience, these are not necessarily bright, shiny new pennies. These are not new athletic fields or new swimming field pools, but these are things that we have had parents come to us about, and some of these have been on the list for a very long time. So I really just wanted to extend our sincere and heartfelt gratitude to the Waterford community for passing the bond issue and for allowing us to do these kinds of things that keep our facilities world-class and that allow us to do these things without going into our general fund. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'd just like to add that the Kettering locker room renovations, we talked a little bit about this at Women's Information Item before the board, the last board meeting, but this is something like Ms. Sutherland said, it's not necessarily a bright, shiny penny, but those locker rooms are something that many parents have reached out to us about. Several board members, at least about a year and a half, 2 years ago, did actually go out to Kettering and look at those locker rooms. Did feel that this was something that was needed, and again, we thank the community for believing in this district and really setting a positive atmosphere and environment for our kids to be able to walk into, so that they can see that we are investing in them, that we care about them, and that we're showing that by providing them with a good physical structure and a safe environment to be in. So it's not the shiny pennies, but we have a lot of cool things that you'll see, the baseball diamonds and things like that that are very pretty. But these are the things that I think our students are going to appreciate. No other comments or questions. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Or raising your hand. Those opposed? The motion passes. Now we move on to audience comments on non-action items. I have 2 green cards here, so I will go ahead and go with Tammy Wolf. And please just remind you that comments should be directed at the board and are limited to 5 minutes in duration. Participants are asked to avoid statements that are personally directed, abusive, or obscene.
My name is Tammy Wolf, and I have lived in the Waterford community for 25 years. I have 2 daughters that have graduated from the district, and my husband and I have been active members of the community. I wish to address the issue of searching for a new superintendent. In watching the last school board, it is misleading that we're designated as there's an old board and a new board. So when officially we only have 1 new board member. So I guess I'm addressing mostly the old board on this. For watching the past board meetings, I don't see that there is a lot of working for the community. I feel that, sorry, I can rewrite some of my notes after we had absences from the board. So every board meeting that I've watched over the last year has really been an embarrassment. And I really looked at that when I heard recently that when someone asked Dr. Wunderlich why he was leaving, he said, watch the last board meeting. There is a flyer that says there is a stakeholder input session in finding a new superintendent. I believe that Dr. Wunderlich came to the district because of his love for the district and his connection to the district. I think it will be impossible to find a new superintendent that will come to the district and put his or her heart and soul into a district where their board members do not know or act within some of their boundaries. If the candidates for the superintendent watch the past board meetings, they will see, for instance, the last board meeting where Dr. Wunderlich was directly told he was in violation of his contract, and the president of the board then had to say with reference to that issue, which has not been tabled or should have been on today's agenda, that's why I rewrite everything, that he has been acting at the direction of the board members. So he referenced he was not in violation of his contract. Candidates will see that there's micromanaging going on when there are bigger items to concentrate on. For instance, the conversation about they want all the overtime, every new person that has been hired to be brought to the board. And that is also with reference to what's been tabled to the next agenda. They will see a discussion about anti-bullying, which actually turned into an act of bullying towards the superintendent by chastising him about how when something's taken with the anti-bullying committee. And then one of the board members had to then say the committee has been doing that. It wasn't just the superintendent. When the candidate looks at these things, they'll see that there is no old or new board that is acting as a team with the superintendent. All of the old and new board members need to look at themselves in the mirror to see if they see the community standing beside you. The members of the old board that don't see the community beside them need to work on attendance issues, bullying, micromanaging, and other openly reprehensible acts. The superintendent, administrators, teachers, and staff need a team behind them that represent what the community expects, leaders and examples for the current and future students of the Waterford School District. The community members of the Township of Waterford need to speak up about the issues I've discussed above. Until there's change at the top of the hierarchy, there is no way that the Waterford School District Board of Education will be able to vote on a superintendent who will effectively be able to work to advance this district. It was referenced at the last board meeting about not playing games, and it was referenced directly to Dr. Wonderlick. The Waterford community needs to speak up about the games that are being played and the consequences that affect the Waterford School District and finding the superintendent. Thank you very much.
Next up is Ms. Kristen Wagner.
Hi, I'm Kristen Wagner. I am a parent in the district and I've been here many times, so most of the people here know who I am. I wanted to give an update on our funding committee. We have the Waterford School Funding Advocacy Committee that we have been working diligently on in hopes to get our state and our legislators to fund our schools properly, adequately, and accurately. So I wanted to kind of give everyone a little update of where we are at. But I also wanted to do a proud parent moment really quick. I was late to the meeting because I was at festival where Mott's Chamber Orchestra just received straight ones. So I just wanted to and both of our schools have done phenomenally well the last 2 days at festival, as well as our middle school. So we just had a meeting this past week. It also happened to be the same day that Governor Whitmer released her budget proposal. So this is why it is so imperative right now. We have to reach out to our legislators. What she proposed was a $180 increase to our base foundation allowance. That is what we need. We need as a district, we need that base foundation allowance to be increased so that we are able to give our teachers their step back. So that we will stop the bleed of what is happening and that we can get funding that's equal in all districts across our county. So that is a huge piece of it. Now, although she proposed it, it doesn't mean that it will go into effect. That is our policymakers that put that into effect. And the only way that they will be willing to support that is if we push them to do that. So it is on us as a community and on the state to do that. She also proposed a 20% increase for multiple things, career and technical education. That was about a $50 million increase. 102 for special education. So there's quite a bit of pieces. It's a very small piece of what we need, but it is a start. And we have to start somewhere. So I wanted to let everyone know, one of the things that we are doing is a postcard campaign that we kicked off at the Waterford Parent Engagement Night. For those that weren't able to attend, we've been trying to distribute the postcards throughout the community. There's 750. We are planning to mail all of them. I have about 150 left that need to be addressed and messaged. So if anyone here would like to do that, I will wait out in the lobby today. I'd like to get all those out. Our plan is to mail them out on March 11th. And we are also going to the state capitol, and I have a little flyer with me, and it's starting to circulate on social media. We are planning on going March 21st. We will be leaving Waterford at about 7:30 in the morning. Our plan is to be at the capitol by 9 a.m. We are currently in the process of finalizing our meetings, but right now it looks like we will be able to meet with both of our state representatives and 2 of our senators, and another senator who's actually on the education committee, but is not the senator that represents any of our communities. So it looks like we have a pretty good agenda for that day, and our voices will hopefully be heard. There's quite a few other groups that are also going that day. important to advocate for public ed, so it will be hopefully a good day in all. And we're asking everyone to wear red for ed, so you want to wear your red scarves, because more than likely we'll have snow. So wear red underneath, no one will see it. It is Michigan, we could have flip-flops, you never know. But we really, really encourage, if you can't come, encourage your neighbors to come. Write the letters, send the emails, make the calls. Please do our postcards. We want that visual. We want all 750 postcards to show up at the state capitol before we get there, so that they understand that we are serious and this is something that's important. Our children deserve better. Our state deserves better. Meet me in the lobby.
I also have quite a few cards with me tonight as well, so if you're interested, it just literally takes, you put your name on here, your address, and we have the information for the state senators, state reps that you may want to send to that may represent you. Next, Ms. Jessica Pumphrey.
Hello, my name's Jessica Humphrey. I'm the parent of 2 boys in the district. Sorry, I'm a little frustrated. That was a short but frustrating meeting, so I'm sorry if I come off that way. First off, I want to clarify something in the hopes of transparency and honestly celebration. I wanted to clarify something that's been said at a few different meetings and on social media about how Mr. Torres has gone to Washington, D.C. and Lansing on his own dime, or mostly on his own dime. And while I do appreciate everything you spent, while I understand that you have taken vacation days and you've spent your own money, and that is greatly appreciated, I would like to thank the Waterford School District, because not only did they pay the $695 to the National School Board, they paid $893 to the Hilton in Washington, D.C. And I feel like that speaks volumes for our school district, that they're willing to put in that kind of money for the growth and development of our Board of Education. And it is my hope that you will take that the district wants to put so much into your growth and development and cherish that. And hopefully you guys can actually start coming together and bringing some of that knowledge, because in addition, they paid $650 in November for hotels in Grand Rapids and $88 for a conference, and that's in addition to the conferences that you attended with President Piggott up in Grand Rapids or Lansing, I'm not sure, I'm sorry. So I just really wanted to thank the Waterford School District for putting all of that in times like this, where we're struggling to put all of that money into our Board of Education, because you guys are so important. You guys lead and guide our district, and I just wanted to thank the district for doing that. And then on the other fold, I have some issues with the agenda and the way that happened today. I questioned the reasoning because Ms. Morgan had it put on the agenda as an information item. She led a very robust discussion on the item, and she was given that chance, and she was not able to make this meeting, but I don't understand why you get to cherry pick based on if your, what I'm going to say, teammates are here or not. You get to cherry pick what issues you get to vote on. I feel like that's not fair. You said it was unfair for her to attend by phone. I feel like it's been unfair to our district that she's barely attended meetings this school district this school year. So I just question, how long are you going to wait for her to come back to handle this? Because it was so important, and we need to handle this. But it can wait for her because she's busy. She's been busy a lot this school year. So I just would appreciate if you'd stop cherry picking based on your personal decisions. Thank you.
Clarify the comment about the conference. So the Washington, D.C. conference, the board president did state that board member Torres, myself, who did go to the Washington, D.C. conference, who aren't aware, that I use a portion of my own money for that. I do that in the interest of our kids. On that specific conference, I only went because I got a $500 scholarship from Oakland schools. I'm generally offered that scholarship because I attend the government relations meetings on a monthly basis for the district. Additionally, I spent $450 of my own monies, paid for my own plane ticket, all of my own food, and I'm not in a position to have a whole lot of expendable costs. I'll tell you that I got a kid in college and one in daycare, so but I do it in the interest of the kids. I have gone to Lansing several times, never charged gas money for those. When I came back from the conference, I gave a thorough PowerPoint presentation on IDEA and showed that we as a district spend about, or are underfunded by about 25%. The other previous conferences that I've gone to, anybody who's attended these board meetings, they will tell you that I give thorough presentations on those conferences, the Grand Rapids conference that I went to, and I would love it if other board members would join in, because if we could share, and one could go to one could go to the other, because we learn a lot from these conferences, a way to save the district money. But in that instance, again, no, I don't charge for gas money or anything to that extent. And when I did go to the Washington, D.C. conference, I attempted to secure a hotel on Priceline, spoke with our very knowledgeable board secretary, Ms. Roberts, and her and I talked it through, and we felt that it was not smart for me to get it on Priceline, even though I could have got it at a cheaper rate, because I wanted to save the district money. So I just wanted to clarify that, because you made the point, and it has to be addressed, because what you're saying is not true.
And as much as you deserve the applause, I think the Waterford School District does also for paying what they did. I never said that you did not pay part of it. I said that the Waterford School District also paid part of it, and they deserve part of the credit. Credit where credit is due in the interest of transparency.
And the credit goes both ways. Thank you. Mr. Grant Smith.
Good evening. Waterford Youth Assistance is currently planning our youth recognition event. It's hard to believe that we're planning an event in May, but we are now in March. It's one of those year-end events that we look forward to. But I would like to remind the board and anybody out there listening that our nomination period ends in 2 weeks. So they're out there, they're on our website, they're on Facebook. You can call our office, 248-618-7383, or you can go on waterfordya@msn.com to get these forms. What we do at this event is we recognize students for giving back to the community. We have amazing stories every single year of students that on their own decide there's something that needs to be done and they do something about it. This event's May 1st. I penciled in because it is one of the most uplifting events that you could go to. You will feel really great about your community and the kids that we have in this school district. There's lots of events that recognize students for their athletic ability, for their music ability, for their robotic ability. This is the one for kids that give back to the community. I think this is one of the best things that Youth Assistance does, is that we recognize those students. So if you know a kid that is giving back to the community, we want to hear that story. So if you could please go on and get that nomination and send it in the next 2 weeks. We're in that period right now where we don't have a lot of nominations, but that's normal. We usually have about 5 with about 2 days to go, and then we get the other 7. So then we all have to struggle real quick to get it all put together. So maybe make it a little bit easier. We don't have an office administrator right now, so if I have to go in there and type some of those things, there's going to be some typos. So help me out on that one if you could. So please recognize the student and help us make this our best event yet. Thank you.
Any other individuals that would like to make a comment and public comment? We will move on to the next item. Superintendent's report. Dr. Wendell. Thank you.
Yeah, it was alluded to a couple times already. Let me give you a few more details on the governor's proposal for budgets, and I'll be just specific to Waterford. There was the $180. We're not at the rock bottom of funding, so we're getting 177. That's we're about $11 away from the rock bottom, so we're getting $3 less than the actual rock bottom. But so 177 at 180, but that translates into about $1.4 million. And I will also emphasize what Kristen did. This is a proposal. This is not a done deal, so a lot of work needs to be done to make this happen. 4% increase in special education, which is $700,000 plus coming back to reimburse for special ed costs, which that's amazing, very good. $894 per at-risk student. That's going to be in 31A funds. There's a lot of strings attached to that, so it's not like all of this money can just be used for whatever we want. But again, it's another big chunk of money, over $800,000. $487 for career and tech ed. Not really sure. A lot of our career tech ed kids go to open schools programs, so I'm not sure if that money's going to follow them there. But we do have our own programs as well in-house. But that money together is about $500,000. What the state did was they took all those pots of money and added them up together as if every student might be eligible for all of it, which just isn't the case, but it makes doing the budget easier. And then they divided it by how many FTE we have for students in the district, and came up with $466 per student for Waterford. There's a map that's out there that you can access, and you can click on various school districts around. I haven't found anybody that's getting more yet. So finally, probably because we have been so poorly funded for so many years, this is our turn to get our share of the state dollars out there. So once again, if I can reiterate, we need your help to hear from educators a lot, moms and dads out there. If you can make a call to your legislator, drop an email to support this happening, it can make a huge, huge difference for the school district. So that 466 would be an average per student amount that we would be getting that we could use for budgetary purposes. So if you take that times, let's just use 8,000 students for FTE, times that 466 is $3.7 million. That's a lot. And if you remember from the previous meeting, we were talking about our projected loss of students at 450 students. That comes out to about 3.5 million. So that gets us back to where we started. So I think it will help with our budget discussions that we're going to be having at our next meeting and then beyond to talk about, so what is it that we want to do for staff, and what changes do we want to make to be able to do that. But the best case scenario here is what we need by the end of June is a balanced budget. And it sounds like if this budget happens, this actually happens at the state level, we can get that balanced budget just by that change alone, which is extremely remarkable. But we would also like to have these other very tough conversations before the school year is over, because we know we're also losing staff that's going to some of those other districts that have always been better funded than we are. We'd like to show that we are serious about making some changes. That slide, I know she left that slide up, Mary, about employees see financial growth. Want to make that come true. I have a few accolades that I want to mention. We've had 4 teams qualify for the Michigan Destination Imagination State Tournament, and that's going to be held in April at Michigan State. They're in first place, going to states, is a Kettering and Mott team on the High School Improvisational Challenge. Another first place from a Pierce team, Middle School Fine Arts Challenge. A 3rd place, also a Pierce team, Middle School Engineering Challenge. And 4th place, a Grayson team with an Elementary Scientific Challenge. So congratulations to those 4 teams that are moving on to states. And I just learned something from one of our parents that came up, because I was going to be congratulating the Waterford Kettering orchestras, who all received 1s at festival. And we get to say Mott too, so we've got some great music programs no matter where you go. Also, congratulations to the Waterford Captains girls basketball team. They have advanced to finals which are tomorrow. But it's always nice because the last game they won was a win over Clarkston, which is always a good thing. I also want to wish luck to Kettering's Chloe Wall and Stefan Baldwin. They're going this weekend to New York for high school track and field national championships. Chloe is going in the freshman mile, Stefan in the long jump, and also Waterford Montanoa First will be there running the 800. I want to thank Waterford Youth Assistance. They recently completed the 2019 shoplifting prevention program for all of our 5th graders at all 9 elementary schools. There's over 600 kids that receive shoplifting prevention, and they hear about the crime, the community, and the consequences involved with that. Coming up next week, we encourage all high school students, especially those that are making college decisions, to come to the College and Career Expo. It's Wednesday, March 13th at Kettering from 6 to 7:30. Waterford Foundation and Genesis Credit Union are the sponsors of that event. It's a great thing where there's representatives from, in fact, I think last year was like 80 different colleges and universities that are there. So if you're a parent and you're in that situation, bring your sons and daughters, come to that. You can talk to a lot of college representatives in a short period of time and get a lot of great information. And then just lastly, thank you again, Mary and EA for that nice presentation. It definitely takes the village. I can't take credit for all of that, and the EA and all of the teachers and all the folks in the classroom are a huge part of that village, and you're the folks that make it happen every day. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving on to discussion items. So future items, information item 2019-2020 budget development. The next regular meeting will be March 21st relative to the 2019-2020 development of the budget. We will also have a special meeting on March 27th, 6:30 p.m. at Prairie relative to the superintendent search. As a reminder, the Board of Education would like to hear from all stakeholders in the process. Stakeholders input sessions were held this past Wednesday and will take place again on Monday, March 11th. So Monday, March 11th. The community is welcome to join Donna Hoser, our search consultant, at 6 p.m. in the LGI room at Kettering High School. So 6 p.m. at the LGI room at Kettering High School. The public is also encouraged to take the online survey that is available online and can be found on our website under the superintendent search. So please do that. All that information is extremely helpful to us in the process. Any board reports? Ms. Halls?
Excuse me. We've had so many discussions tonight about finances and a variety of different venues, and I really just want to give a shout out to this community and all the different sectors who give of their time and their talent and their finances. And my motto has always been, there's no I in team. And I am proud every single day to be a part of this community, and the parents who are advocating, and the staff who are advocating, and the businesses who are advocating for the kids and for our schools, and who give endlessly from their pocketbooks, from their resources, from their expertise to make this district the great place that it is to be. And I just think it's really important to me tonight to extend my heartfelt appreciation for all of you do going to Lansing, and the supplies that you buy in the classroom every single day, and the extra time that you spend at night to make sure that the next event or the next presentation happens well beyond your 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are. And it's just really a true privilege to be a Waterford resident and to serve alongside all of you each and every single day. So thank you.
So first of all, what she said. It truly is what I wanted to say, and she said it far more beautifully than I could have. I'm so grateful for the support of this community and for the work that these amazing parents, staff members, teachers, transportation, bus drivers, custodians, secretaries, paras. It is an extraordinary place to be a part of, and an extraordinary community with the kind of support that we have. So grateful, so grateful. Also wanted to extend my sincere and heartfelt thanks to Kristen Wagner, who you heard come to the microphone tonight, and to the amazing group of parents who assembled and are working on school finance reform. Truly, when we look at some of the struggles in our district, so many of them come down to a lack of adequate funding. And I have a bunch of facts and figures in front of me. I promise I'll be quick. I just want 4 of them. I'm just going to read 4 of them to you. And my hope is that you will be motivated to fill out a postcard, to send a letter, to call your legislator, come by and see me. I'll give you talking points if you want to contact your legislator. And so that we can take the budget that's been proposed and push, because our roads are really important. Our kids are far more important. So just a couple quick facts, and these are from research collaborative studies that have been done in analytics, and there's a million. I have folders and folders of them, but there's just a couple to give you some indication. So again, in the adequacy study, we've heard this number many times, $9,590 is the amount that it takes to educate a child, not including such things as transportation, English language learners, special services, computer and technical education, food service, or any capital costs, and only includes pension costs at 4.6%. So that is not including any of those things. Equal is not equitable. It costs far more to educate students in poverty. It costs more money to educate special education students. It costs more to educate English language learners, and yet our per pupil allocation is not reflective of any of that. Secondly, since 2000, Michigan's inflation-adjusted per pupil spending has fallen by $663 per student, while the U.S. average has increased by over $1,440. That's a $2,000 disparity in Michigan from the rest of the country. When adjusted for inflation, the state's total education revenue in 2015 was less than 82% of what it was in 1995, shortly after Proposal A was enacted. That is unconscionable. We cannot attract and retain high-quality educators. We cannot expect our teachers to keep working for less. We cannot continue, and the answer isn't in our control. I wish it were. If it were, we wouldn't be where we're at. The answer is in the hands of our legislators. But the people with the loudest voice are you. There are parents, there are teachers, there are staff members, and you're the one that needs to contact your legislators. We will do it too, I promise you, but we need your help, and we need to push for adequate funding. It's the right thing to do, it's the right thing for our state, it's the right thing for our community, it's the right thing for our schools, and most importantly, it's the right thing for our kids. Thank you.
I spoke last couple of meetings, and we've had a tremendous amount of cards and gifts and wonderful accolades. And again, when we get these kids' cards, they're excited. They say all kinds of cool things. You know, I have a couple more cards up here today. So there's just a simple one is, if you're reading this, have a nice day. How can you just not feel good about that? With a little picture of a clock that says thanks on it and stuff. I don't know what school it is, and I'm going to goof up this last name, but it looks like Avery Palooza. But I just wanted to thank them very much for kind of brightening up my day. It's a lot of fun seeing things like that. Just, I had chills. I went to the basketball game, girls' Kettering basketball game last night and watched them beat Clarkston. And one of Clarkston's coaches is a former Kettering student that played basketball in Kettering. So the old Kettering coach, Scott Woodhull, and her were talking before the game, and it was a lot of fun. I sat with her parents because they're family friends and have been for a long time, but it's still part of our community. You know, we are Waterford, but we expand. You can move, but you can never leave. So I want to thank the community again as they did down there. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to, again, important it is. March 21st, Day of Advocacy. We're going to go to Lansing. We're going to push for supporting public education. I have several cards up here, as well as Ms. Wagner in the back. If you fill one of these out, it'll take you a couple seconds. Come right up here. We'll send those along. The idea with the cards is we're going to hit the legislators with the cards first, so they're getting that information, so that they're aware. And then when we get there, we're going to get that second shot at them. You know, part of what I learned at that conference in D.C. was that the most important form of advocacy is that face-to-face meeting, and specifically if it's with your legislators. So we really think that we can push for this. But like Dr. Wunderlich said, this is the budget that was presented. It's not a done deal. You know, this is going to be upon us to put forward the efforts to advocate, to talk about our stories, to tell our stories, and to really push that this $180 increase happen. This could be a huge amount of money injected into the Waterford School District, and we want to make sure that we're getting that money and we're properly advocating for our kids. And the beauty of this budget that was put forth by the governor is also to the equations that take into consideration for districts like Waterford, where we would get specific monies allotted to us, and that really gets to that whole equitable question that we've talked a lot about. You know, these cards, today it was funny, had these on the table in my house, and my little 5-year-old, she looked at it and she's like, Dad, she says, what's this? And I was telling her about it, and I kind of was blowing her off, and I thought, I was like, wait, this is important, because this actually affects her. This is what we're advocating for. So then I took a minute and I said, hey, I explained to her what we're doing. We're fighting for money for kids, so that when she goes to kindergarten, that she can have the things that she needs to get a proper education, and for other kids to get a proper education. Then a little light bulb went off in my head, and I've been thinking about this later. She says, can I come? I'm like, wait a minute, that's powerful actually. We show up there with a little kid, in the legislature. So thinking about that for maybe next time. Maybe if we're going to get there and we're going to talk to our legislators, and if this budget gets as heated as I'm thinking that it may get because of this whole roads issue, we might have to go up there several times. And we have had to do that in the past. Last year, we went up there at least twice that I can remember. So, that might be something that we may want to do as Waterford parents, take some of our kids up there so that they can see the people who are making these decisions. And I think that that's a very powerful thing, because part of what I learned at the conference in D.C. was powerful stories are what's going to change people to understand and to really realize, how this is affecting the district. So we're hoping that this $180 increase will happen, but it's not going to happen unless we are out there putting forth, the efforts and really pushing to make it occur. The last thing is I took a point of privilege for just a few moments to clarify, and you can say what you want, but the implication is that I went to this conference and I'm living this lavish vacation or having something great, and that's not the case at all. That is not the case at all. I took $450 of my own money to go on this conference. I can assure you I'm not in a position, like I said, having a kid in college and one in daycare. And essentially as well, I covered costs for my own meals by eating oatmeal and eating protein bars. And, went to the conferences all day. So I just, I have to highlight the fact that the implication is that, you're recognizing the Waterford School District, but also too the fact that, board members are getting out there and they're trying to learn as much as they can to advocate. And that's our role as board members, to represent the community. And any opportunity we can get to try to represent your best interest, we need to jump on that. And we need to do it in a very transparent and in a way that is least cost effective to the district. And that's something I always take into consideration. So that's why I wanted to clarify that, because it is important that that money flow to our kids, but it's also important that we get that education and the information that we need as board members. And lastly, I just want to thank Dr. Wunderlich again for his service to this district. We have several other board meetings left. The highlights that were there tonight are it's proof to some of the gains that we've made in this district. We're moving ahead, we're moving forward, and I'm excited about what's to come in the next few years. With that, this board meeting is adjourned.